Hello there, wellness entrepreneur. Welcome back. McLean family, we just got back from a wonderful vacation into Lake Tahoe. The drive's not so much fun, but I can tell you, I just love road trips as long as there's not a lot of traffic or extremely long. But for the most part, I really do love road trips, just getting out into the wide open, away from traffic, seeing scenery. For us, it was mountains and lakes, and it was just gorgeous. And then we got up to the lake and we stayed at this really great spot right on South Lake Tahoe, away from the casinos, but near the water. Kaylee and I are water people. So we went kayaking, we went jet skiing or wave running, which I grew up around that lakes. My grandparents had a small, actually, my grandfather built from his own two hands, a small A-frame cottage that they lived in. So the summers we took over, and for many years we spent a lot of time on the lake. And so it just brings back such great memories for me. It's a great time to remember my brother. And we just had a blast. We did some hiking and bike riding and a bunch of nothing and playing cards. And it was just really wonderful to get away, especially, the week before I was finishing up on the launch of the 100K online. And welcome to all the new members. It was a really great launch. I'll do a more formal review of that in another episode. But it was a really wonderful launch. So to go on vacation right after that and celebrate that and just take some time off really felt amazing. And now this week, we're getting into the kickoff and onboarding of these new clients, and also onboarding some new one-to-one clients as well. And I was thinking of what you might really need this summer to hear from the podcast episode. And I know summer is a time of relaxation and freedom, and I really want you to be able to feel that in your business. And what I see from a lot of wellness practitioners, maybe they're starting in their journey or they've been on their journey for some time and they're really feeling burnout and tired and not seeing the revenue that they want to see yet. They haven't, or maybe they're trying to transition from brick and mortar to online and they're not sure if it's worth putting in the time of going online, or they're in the beginning phases of online and investing time and not sure if it is worth the time. And so I want to speak to you when you feel like you really want to enjoy summer, but the clock is ticking for some reason. Maybe you just want to bring in more revenue. Maybe you want to create more time freedom in your business and you want to do it right now because summer's here. Or maybe you want to do it because your spouse really wants to see the results. He wants more revenue coming into the family. And I can understand that. There was times in the first few years of my business when I was brick and mortar, and then again when I was transitioning from brick and mortar to online, where my husband was really wanting to see the money. He really wanted to, make sure that the business was worth my time, especially because in the beginning when I was overworking, he just didn't understand how I was putting in so many hours and not able to bring in more money, which was understandable because I was really overworking at the time. And then when I was transitioning online, because we went through that hold, he considers having himself, he had trauma from that time when I was really overworking, which is understandable because he had a young, my daughter was only 2 and 3 at the time, and he felt a lot of weekends like a single father because I was barely home. And he didn't want to repeat that same process when I was rebuilding my business and moving online. But he wanted to make sure that our bills and expenses were covered because I, as a business owner, we didn't have because we live in Southern California and the cost of living is high and we do own our home here. We can't just rely on his income. He is a civil engineer for the county of San Diego. So there is limits of his salary. So I had to figure out how to make it work. In the beginning, I made it work because I overworked and just said yes to too many things. And it did work. I was profitable that first and second year my business. The first half I started in May, and so that first half of the year, and then the first full year I did hit 100K and was profitable, but it was at the expense of missing a lot of time with family. So when I transitioned online, I really wanted to do something different, but I still felt the clock ticking because I still had to pay the bills. You know, we still had to cover the mortgage, cover the child care, and all the things. And I've worked with a lot of clients that are just starting out in their business. For example, my client Arlene, she is one of my one-to-one clients, and she, as a one-to-one client, does get the 100K online for free. And she helps people with chronic illnesses, long haul COVID, clients that are healing from bariatric surgeries. She came to me with just one or two new clients. And in fact, you can hear her podcast episode how she grew to 23 clients on her roster now. And she doesn't see all of them in one week because some of them do take, they're building their endurance, so they don't see her every week. But in one single week for her, she did bring in brand new people, 3 consults, and all those consults said yes. So things can change pretty quickly. And Melissa, she is a burnout coach, and we just got off a call pretty recently, right before I left out of town, where she hit her biggest month ever, $4,000. And when she came to me, she was just bringing in a few hundred or had several months of nothing and was living off of savings, which is very, very stressful. And now she actually also has a part-time job where she is bringing in more revenue than that. And she doesn't have to pull from her savings as much, in combination with signing all these new clients, having her highest revenue months, and having her part-time job. That is a huge shift from when we first started, where she was pretty much 100% relying on her savings. So I'm telling you all that because I know you have big dreams. You're listening here. You want your own business. You want to leave the burnout mill situation. You want to have more freedom and flexibility, like I am, going out of town as much as you want over the summer, having shorter days, more time with family, and you really want to make a big impact. You have a lot of credentials and certifications. And so you really have a lot of ideas on how you want to help people. And the reason why I told you my story and Arlene's story and Melissa's story is because I want you to know that even though the clock may be ticking for you, whether it is a spouse or your own bills that you want to pay or just the dreams that you want to accomplish without overworking, I hear you. And I've been there. And a lot of my clients have been here too. And I want you to know that that pressure you're feeling, you're not alone there. And you can handle that. Here's one thing that really changed my mind or my mindset. One of my coaches told me, well, she didn't tell me personally. I listened to a call replay. And that's why I really, whenever I get someone that can't attend the calls for the 100K online group program, and I always tell them that the replays are available. And I know they're so valuable because I listen to so many of my coaching calls, my own coaches replay calls, and I feel like they're speaking to me personally, but I'm just watching the replay or listening to the replay on a walk. But what she said on the replay is that the ability to feel the pressure and not try to avoid or resist the pressure, because sometimes we try to go around it. Sometimes we feel that something has gone wrong, so we try to avoid it completely. Sometimes we try to resist and block it. All of that slows us down. But the ability to feel the pressure and still have creative ideas and still be able to shift the energies on some days, still be able to enjoy life, that will get you so far in business. Because even though I'm multiple 6 figures a year, there is many times, even just this year, where I felt a lot of pressure. For example, the launch I just finished. Before that, I was nervous because I had changed the style of my launching. I was doing a free webinar, which was something I hadn't done in a while. I have my newer program, the 100K online. So it was just my second launch. I wasn't sure how it would do. And I was nervous because earlier this year I had raised my one-to-one prices. So there were some shifts there. So there was some multiple changes going on in my business. And I wasn't sure of the outcome of all these changes. If the launch would be successful, did I need to try to bring in some one-to-one clients right away because my one-to-one price had shifted? I was a little nervous and I felt a lot of pressure. So maybe I was more than a little nervous. But I did feel pressure. When I woke up in the morning, I felt pressure. I felt the anxiety of paying the bills, especially because even though I had my business and personal expenses covered, I have some bigger expenses coming up with a couple of my coaches that I wanted to make sure that I could pay for. Plus, I run ads. So there was some additional expenses as well. And my ability to feel the pressure while still show up to my webinar, still show up to my client calls, still show up and get myself out of a freeze response, recognize that I was in a freeze response and be able to shift it, that allowed me to keep going for the launch that I was doing and still have it be very successful. And that's what I want for you, because I felt that pressure early on in my business when I was overworking, and that was actually the cause of the overworking. And I really had to learn how to feel it and create safety for myself and my business as part of a mindset nervous system strategy so that I could be creative and implement the tactical strategies that would actually bring in the money and make sure I didn't get stuck in a freeze response. So that is what I really want for you to be able to do, as well as to know that you can handle the pressure. You can feel the pressure. You can create safety in your body and safety in your business to then have a tactical strategy so that you can pay the bills and meet the deadlines that you want to meet when the clock is ticking. And again, some of my clients did this under a lot of pressure, like living off of savings or like making sure that they had their family's expenses covered. And that's why I always suggest, and I've suggested this in previous podcasts, is that like if you have the freedom and flexibility where you can hang in with a job where maybe it isn't ideal, where you are in a burnout or mill scenario with barely any time to pee or having long documentation to meet insurance standards and things like that. But if you can hang in and build savings while you go out on your own, or with your brick and mortar, you're really wanting to bring in an online component. If you can build savings for your brick and mortar so that you can start to, or just hang in with your brick and mortar where you learn how to sell online and grow your audience online without just, what I did was so black and white, where I thought I had to fully leave my brick and mortar to go online. Then it caused my revenue to stall, which can be very scary. Where if you have savings or a job, or if your brick and mortar is more predictable in your revenue, keep doing that while you learn how to sell a new program. It allows you to transition easier. And here's the thing that I learned really early on is that when you feel that clock ticking, when you have that pressure from maybe a partner or your own pressure to pay the bills, every instinct will tell you to do more posting, more offers, a workshop, a membership and a freebie, podcast and TikTok, Instagram, do it all at the same time. And you end up spreading yourself across all these 9 things, hoping that one of them hits. But spreading thin is often the slowest way, especially like for me, when I would overwork, I would get so tired that I couldn't make very good business decisions, or I was making really quick business decisions without the big picture plan taken into account, or I was rushing to post everywhere and I was making a lot of mistakes where then the content didn't hit quite as impactfully as it could have. Or you might just freeze and overwhelm with all the ideas or all the things that you could do, and then you don't do anything and you don't realize that you're freezing because you're really just tinkering behind the scenes, or maybe taking 3 hours to make one content. But none of that is going to actually bring in the revenue that can actually take the pressure off. So I tell my clients they really only need 3 things to start bringing in money quickly. Number one, you need an offer. Number two, you need a marketing and your audience. And then you need to know how to convert it or sell. And so if you look at those three areas from its simplest form, the quicker that you can decide on your offer, if you have a small audience, one to one is simplest. And then you can work with people on a wide variety of wellness and health issues and narrow down over time as you work with more people. And number two, for the marketing, if you just start to communicate and talk with people on a one-to-one level, going to networking events or reaching out to people on your email list or on your Instagram, personally talking with people, that is the quickest way to really hear from them on what they're really needing and match your offer to them specifically. And then you can learn how to convert from there through sometimes DM or even a consultation call. And then from there, you can transition as your revenue improves into a one to many model where a lot of you want to go with group programs, memberships, digital products. It's really endless on how you can transition from one to many there. And then you might refine your offer, and it's learning on your marketing how to do one to many, like through Instagram or a webinar or a workshop, filling it, and then selling one to many as well, where you're converting maybe from a workshop to a consult or an Instagram post to opting in for something. So you just refine those three steps over and over again. But if the clock is really ticking for you, it's understanding what is the simplest offer I can just get out there and start marketing simply to my audience. What is the easiest and most approachable or accessible way that I can start talking to people about my offer? And how can I sell or convert them in a way that feels authentic and in alignment with me? So if you just write those three steps down for yourself and write down the ideas that come to your mind without judgment or crossing them off, just running with those ideas. Sometimes I have clients coming to me being like, "Oh, I have this idea. What do you think about it?" I'm like, "Do it, run with it." Then you're going to get more trust and confidence with yourself, where then you'll move faster and you'll start trusting your decisions quicker. So then revenue will come easier and faster as well. But it really starts with checking and making sure of your mindset and what is really happening when you're feeling the pressure in the first place. And then shifting to a process where you can just start talking to as many people about your offer as possible. And that will bring in revenue. If you just rinse and repeat that over and over again, that will bring in revenue from a numbers perspective as long as you stick with it. And I have many clients, like, they come in and they start the process and immediately will start signing clients and getting consults right away. And those clients, they don't deliberate on their offer. They say, "Okay, let's just do one to one. Let's just get it out there." Or maybe they have a group program and they're like, I'm going to keep my brick and mortar one to ones rolling. Let me just get this group offer out there. Let me just try it and I'll refine it over time. Those are the people that start bringing in more revenue quicker because they're not looking for perfection and they're not stuck hiding behind waiting to feel confident and for the pressure to go away. They're just learning how to be fluid within those emotions and find safety and trust within themselves to know that they can refine things over time. It will get better for them and their clients over time, the more people that they work with. So it feels kind of messy. And it is kind of messy because we look for the polished brand. And you're going to hear this from my brand strategist when this episode goes live, how we look for everything to be perfect and put together. And we want to feel this 100% confident and certainty in our offer and our marketing plan. And everything comes together wrapped in a package and a bow. But sometimes the process to getting to everything looking neat and tidy, there is some messiness and there's some failures along the way. And we have to be able to hold some of these uncomfortable emotions, like the pressure, like the disappointment, to be able to get to what I experienced last week, some freedom and some relaxation, some celebration, some happiness, some connection with my family. And then coming back, looking forward to this amazing community that I've built and working with them. I have so many ideas that I want to do. Like, I have an AI workshop coming up for them specifically as one of my bonus, and the ideas are just flowing out of me. And I'm so excited to teach that to them. And I'm so excited to work with all my new clients. But that only came from me being able to navigate and withhold the pressure and even some failures in my launch, where I highlighted on a previous episode, to get to the good stuff, right? Because sometimes I think when we're an employee and we look so forward to having our own business, we forget that it's not always happiness all the time just because it's our own business. There are some uncomfortable moments, and we just have to learn how to navigate them in our own business. And the rewards of doing that for our own business versus staying in a job where we're in a middle situation is that we actually have control and we get to fulfill our passions and our creative outlets. But to be able to do that, we also have to navigate these uncomfortable times as well. So that's what I have for you this week, especially if you're feeling some pressure and the clock is ticking and you still want to be able to enjoy your summer. You really can do both. And part of the process, too, when you do have a partner that wants to know where the money is coming from, is figuring out the communication style that works for them. So for my partner, my husband, I had to sometimes tell him that, because he would try to tell me how I should run my business and what I should do, even though he didn't have and has never run a business. I would just say, no business advice, please. And we got to the point where he just kind of respected that. And where we are in our relationship right now is he does celebrate things with me and tells me how proud I am, or how proud he is of the business that I built, but he's not in the weeds into my day to day. I don't really tell him a lot what's going on in my business, because he feels, at the end of his day, he feels done with his job. So that's where we are. And that's how I kind of just shared insights and just paid my bills. And then I have a lot of entrepreneur friends that I can talk to about, and coaches that I can get into the weeds with them day to day. And that's kind of worked. And hopefully, I do hope it changes in the future. I would like someone where I could bounce more ideas off of and share more highs and lows in my business. So hopefully, from my perspective, as transparently as we work on our own relationship and things for the future, I hope we can get to that point. It's just figuring out what works within both of our nervous system capacities. But it's learning how to communicate with your partner in a way that protects your mindset without knowing that their doubts aren't the burden that you have to carry for them, where you are your own identity and person, and their emotions and their pressures, that's for them to carry. And you can stay the course and do what's right for you and your business, and just communicate them. I don't know the relationship that you have with your partner and spouse, but it is finding the communication pattern and style that does work, where you feel supported and can follow your passion and dreams, and they can still have their needs met as well. And it is finding that balance and compromise during the process, because if you do look at it from their perspective, if especially if they're like my husband, who was, pretty black and white employee mindset, that where in entrepreneurship there's so many shades of grays and risk taking that can feel really uncomfortable and scary for them. So I had to figure out how to communicate it in a way with him where I felt the trust, the safety, and the confidence for myself first, where I fully believed in myself and my plan and knew that I could do that. And then I would communicate with him. And then I would follow through with the actions, and then eventually the revenue would come as well. And so then he had a lot more buy in. But, it was shaky in the beginning. But that's where we were transparently. And I say this because you might feel some of that yourself. And I want you to know that you can get through it too, by just finding the confidence within yourself and not taking on their doubt as well, or pressure as well. Or if you're feeling your own pressure, which I did, I created my own pressure, then you have the ability to still create safety for yourself as well. Okay, so a little bit more of a transparent and vulnerable episode today, but I hope it brings you some hope and trust and safety within yourself to keep going, because I tell you, like, there is nothing better than that feeling of pride and accomplishment and celebration and wins when you do handle the pressure, stick with it, and come out on the other side and create something that you've always imagined and dreamed for yourself. It is so, so worth it, especially when your clients are on the receiving end of all that. And then they start to have the wins and the successes because you put in the time and the effort and the hard work to get them into your program and build your program the way that you did so that they receive the results. It's such a win-win. Okay, I hope you have a wonderful and are having a wonderful, wonderful summer, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.